Oh, hello, welcome to another of my roundup videos. This one I'm going to cover the decks that I want to be playing in set 5, and just to not confuse everyone with the non-blue steel deck on the screen, I am going to talk about blue steel as well. I'm going to cover 3 decks. Yeah, because I've managed to sort of pack with my friends and stuff like that in the local areas, and also Pixelball and Connect, and the other environments where I can play. Getting filled up with set 5 cards now, so we're actually getting to get a good grip of the meta. But yeah, I've got 3 decks here. I hope everyone's managed to pull exactly what they wanted. In the first day, managed to get the play sets of the common cards I really wanted. I mean, Fast I'd like to test, but I can almost guarantee you I don't want to play the card. And someone will clip that and then rewind it to me when they find out I'm playing it. But let's see. Yeah, it's just not a card I'm interested in right now. But the 3 decks that I sort of am interested in, I played against them. I mean, right now I was only able to upgrade my wheel version of Whole New World. But there's some things I want to test. It's only been 1 week. Sorry, it's only been since Friday, so it's only been 3 days really. And the first one is this yellow-green hyper aggro that is making a bit of a comeback. I mean, it was a set 2 deck for so long. You're still sort of rocking around in set 3 and set 4. I wouldn't be surprised if local players were playing it. Maybe their meta allowed it if they weren't as competitive as others. And it can still steamroll an RP. It can still steamroll red-blue. So it was one to watch out for. But since the announcement of that Daisy card, this Daisy card right here, I just think the deck's really come into its own. That card is just insanely powerful. I found on the play, on the draw, it's great turn one. It's insane. It gets a lot of lore, does a lot of disruption. Turn If you play it later on, it's likely they're not going to have 4 damage. They might brawl it, but they're brawling a 1 drop or 3 drop human Sisu as well. Steel struggles with it just to do 4 damage. They're gonna have to Zeus it, which is also a 4 cost song, or they're gonna have to find some way to do it. Maybe a grab your swords and then fire the cannons. So she's likely gonna get some work in. Even if you play her later on, you'll exert, and then she might get traded with, but that's fine with me in my opinion. And you can bounce her as well with all of the purple bounces. And then by the end of the deck, you can just sort of find the win with cards like Gathering Knowledge, which is just an action that gains you 2 lore. Your Goat bounces, as it usually was. Your Brunies are a nice card draw. Blue as well now. We can get card draw. We can get just instant lore from there. And the card that's sort of amazing is Chromacon, because at the start we probably don't want to use it, or we don't need to use it because we're just drawing a card, playing it. But by the point they sort of win the board back quite heavy, we might want to have set this up and grained some cards and then flooded and like worked through their removal so we can just play a bunch of stuff out and win again. As from other card games, I mean, I mainly talk about Blue Steel and play Blue Steel, and the reason why I went to that deck was I didn't think Lorcana had any good aggro decks or good meta aggro decks that could win events. And in other card games, I've always enjoyed playing aggro decks. I like pushing the limits to it. I like ones that had a lot of flexibility. I like the thing of I played this card. If you can answer it, you win. If you can't, I win. So yeah, when this deck sort of got some hype again, I was quite excited about it. I will admit, from testing, I think that hype's going to die down again. I found the issues with I played against it with my blue steel, and if I had Quill and Tinkerbell in my opening hand, and like a fairly decent other cards, like maybe a Fire the Cannons, a Babu, Fire the Cannons, or a Smee, or like a Hiram as well to recover from all the inking. I could sort of equal out and just win the board back and win. They'd be at like 11 lore or something like that, but I'd win it back and start turning sideways. It's unlikely a hyper aggro want to trade with you. They want everything they do to get lore or draw something to set them up for more lore. They don't really care about winning board or controlling you or anything like that. So yeah, but I very very interesting deck. I'd love to give it a try. I hope it has a bit more flexibility than play card turn sideways. Because if you've played aggro in any other TCG, it can be more than that. I mean, at the start, the first turn or the first few turns will be play card turn side, or play card gain your objective to win, whatever that be. If Pokemon KO something, if Magic, that be attack your opponent. If same with Hearthstone. But with Locano, it seems that you just keep doing that, and then you get yeah, well, that is aggro in general. You do just keep doing that for wins. But I think with cards like where is it? So Gathering Knowledge, it's like going to be a bit more interesting. I played a friend today, and it was like he was 4 off. He had a gain your knowledge and wisdom, and he had to draw using Chromacon, and he could use like other things like rabbits and stuff like that to keep drawing to try find that second Chromacon. And if not, he could have played a goats, which would have been a law on board, then a law when it leaves. So he just needs to make sure I didn't win on that turn. So it did feel a little bit like there was more depth to it, but Steel has just been such a good answer for the rest of the deck, and the only real cards that have changed have been this Daisy card. Um, and of course, these cards are great as well, but the real big impactful card has been the Daisy. So yeah, I'm going to see where this deck goes. I'd like to see it at some events, see if it actually starts like ranking quite high. So if I want to invest in a deck, it's quite a cheap deck. I mean, I don't really trust the Dreamborn numbers that much, but if it's around $100, or €100, I can build that, and I've got all these cards anyway. So yeah, firstly, I think it's an interesting deck. I know a lot of people are going to hate it. I don't think it's that bad. I always find aggro kind of it is fast and annoying, and you can sometimes just win from the fact that you just played a card and turned sideways. But I feel it's more. Much rather prefer. I'd much rather prefer prepare. I'd much rather prefer playing into aggro than I would discard. So I don't think it's going to be any more annoying than the discard decks have been with Bucky. I think it's going to be a nice shake-up, but it could be a fun deck. I think a lot of people are going to swap to it and try it out at least for the first few weeks. But yep, that's first one to go through. We've got two more as well here. Set 5, Blue Steel, no wheel. So we're on to Blue Steel again. Yay, we're back to it. I feel like no wheel has a real place to shine here, and that's mainly due to how the rest of the meta shapes out. And that is down to, I think we're going to have a lot of decks that are going to use the card Pete, which I've talked quite highly about it, which is stopping actions, and no wheel has a very limited amount of actions and songs and things like that, so that's good. Against if the aggro decks take off, we don't really want to be wheeling an aggro deck, so it comes back to the thing of why no wheel started existing anyway, was that there was just a lot of decks in the meta, at least in set 4, besides the red decks, every other deck you just didn't want to wheel, and you were playing into them a lot, so it just felt like no wheel was a very strong pick. We get to put a lot more stuff in there because we cut out 4 songs. I think the card draw is still fine. Into any steel deck, I think it'll be fine with Porp, Hiram, and then Tragic Beast and Gaston can sort of get you some more card draw to keep you going. So I think that's fine. It's also worth mentioning like cards like Chicha, which is a 2/1, which which is a 2/1 uninkable, and whenever you ink for a second time that turn, you may draw another card. So you could add that in there. You could set that up early. It can be answered quickly by a lot of things as a 2/1, by Brawl or any Fire the Cannons for Boomer, any cheap damage. But it could just be enough to give you enough card draw, so you're not sat there with such few cards in hand, especially with a deck that needs to aggressively ink. So yeah, into this what could possibly be the green steel aggro decks that could come back now that Bucky's gone. The hyper aggro that I just mentioned that I'm quite interested to try out. Yellow green as well. I've just been seeing that does really well. It was really good in set 4, but now there's no reason to not try it out because Bucky's gone, which was a horrible matchup for it. That just yeah, it's if I think no wheel thrives in a world where RP or just cards like red sort of as a color in itself. I'm not just going to put it as RP. I'm going to put red as a color in itself dies down, and you can go into a room and 1 or 2 of your rounds might be red. But if every round you play against is majority red, which we do see because RP is so popular, and even RB, when I played in Bologna, it was I think 4 or 5 of my rounds had red decks. Yeah, it was because we had so many RP, we had an RB and a FASA. So many of them had red removal cards with the red ladies, Brawl, Be Prepared, all those things, and they just chew through any of our cards that would progress us towards wins and draw power. They deal with Tragic Beast, Hiram, they just deal with everything so easily. And with Wheel, we can't really recover from it as well because we can't be like, oh, hey, here, whole new world, let's go again. What have you got now? So I just find it has a place to shine. If the red sort of color dies down a bit is where it shines. And I haven't seen that. I don't see RP sort of dying down. I was very excited to try at the start because like every avenue I was talking about, set 5, everyone was excited to play hyper aggro, at least in the groups I'm in. So there was a lot of talk about that sort of deck being played, and I was like, oh, I know a great answer for that. No wheel, blue steel. So we looked at that first of all, and we worked with it, but then it's just like you get into the reality of when. I think what will happen is, when we get to the reality and Store Champs comes around, everyone's like, right, so I need to bring back like a meta deck, and I'll bring back my RP, because RP wins Store Champs. And then you're going in with this no wheel list that just doesn't have a good matchup into, into red purple. Or red blue even, or you just I'm saying back to the red color. I think red just wrecks this deck too much, and maybe a card like Chicha could help it, but I don't think it can. So yeah, this is one I'm worth trying. Let's see at events and like how the meta shapes up. If I have a full day of steel matchups, I definitely prefer playing this in the wheel version. But yeah, that's good. All I'm going to say on that point. And we get to play some cards like Hades again. Set one Hades is fun. And finally, I mean, this is posted everywhere on my places that I talk, socials and stuff. It's just my standard wheel blue steel, which do you know what I've been playing the most. I played it at League today, and I think I dropped one game by a misplay, which I should have quested and attacked. And then the other game, I was still learning the matchup versus hyper aggro. But besides that, it's just bog standard set for sort of set 4 version updated. I think Tippo is really good. I'm yet to see why I wouldn't play Tippo. The only thing I will mention is Tippo does shrink hand, whereas what's his name? Mickey Mouse doesn't, and maybe if the yellow, green, and the green steel aggro decks sort of they come back and they no they come back, but you know they are going to be quite prevalent. We want cards that aren't going to shrink hands, because Quill and Tippo won't be very good. But also against green steel, I feel I can usually beat them without hyper aggressively ramping. So maybe just play a Tippo and lose one hat card instead of Quill and keep quilling cards. And getting a 1-2 on board for trading or hitting into things isn't too bad. Right now, yeah, he's been performing very well. I play against a lot of aggro as well, which is nice to ramp put a thing on board. He's inkable, so he let us have this like. Once we took him out and replaced him, we got to take 4 back from our uninkable slots, so we got to maneuver around again. And this is sort of where I've landed, and it's yeah, there's not much different here. We've got this in because just the hype around hyper aggro is still so big. There's a friend of mine who plays it at locals, and we got some games in today. And I don't know if I could say the 4 fire the cannons helped too much. It ended up one of them getting like sort of bottom decks at one point. You're just throwing them out at people. And if you played enough blue steel, the reason why we tend to not play a huge amount of early removal. I mean, you can do. I think Boom actually might be better in this slot. Is mainly because it just screws up your hand economy a bit. If you're just like, there's this thing of like, if they play a Merfolk out, and you fire the cannons the Merfolk. Okay, they don't get the lore from it, but they do get the effect of discarding a card from your hand in a sense because they've taken a card out of your hand to remove that instead of dealing with it in another way because it didn't do anything else for you. It didn't take out a card and then put a card on the board. It just took out a card from their hand, and that's kind of what they want to do sometimes. They would want the lore as well, so it's kind of not a bad spot. But yeah, maybe 4-5 the cannons isn't the way to go. But right now it's been alright, and to be honest with you, at loads of decks, it's like even playing against RP where you can just be like, and I don't want to deal with you doing Flynn Maui tricks on me or something like that, or Flynn CC, so I'm just going to shoot it. It can do for good maths as well. If someone's run a Maui into something, it can be like, and for one, I'm just going to clear up the Maui because I don't want it on the board to trade again perfectly. So yeah, this is sort of where we've landed on it, and the changes are being sort of moved towards the current cards and the current meta. And I made the changes that I'd mentioned after my Bologna video. Tragic Beast is in there. I think we can find room for Gaston. I think the room can be found with the Fire the Cannons removal. The only issue is we don't want, I think in my opinion, we don't want a lot of 6 drops. We're already at 6, which is like kind of a fine number. But just the use of Gaston maybe overpowers him being another 6 drop in a 6 drop field deck. So that'd be fine. Maybe more Tamatoas, maybe more Bells actually. I find Bell was just insane in the mirror recently. Over this weekend, I've been just trying to, after my attempt at Bologna, I've been trying to approach the mirror a bit more, and I find just playing a Bell adds so much pressure and forces so much action from your opponent. It can almost win you the game just from there and then. Played one game against a Fassa player and they like hyper ramped to Fassa, and I was like, great, I'll just play 2 bells, I'll have a dime, and you're just gonna get over the finish line way quicker than they are before they do their, quest. They even had it dried at one point, and they were like quest reset. And the thing with Fassa is it doesn't unexert all of your characters, it's just your ink, so you're still left with not much to do. If your Hiram's already exerted, you don't have a whole new world or another Hiram in hand. So yeah, I don't know why I keep talking down on Fassa. Maybe I just don't like the card at all. But the Simba card, I will now spend the next few days trying out the Cusco, and I think the Cusco is better. There was a few moments when I've been playing recently where it's been, I wish this character quested for 2, just because you get to that point sometimes where it's like the dime's set up, I'm at like 14 lore or something like that. I just need to play something and tap it on the board, force them to react to it. So if I could just play a Cusco, which quests for 2, I could even take out a castle with that as well, which would be amazing. Set up a character that can sing Holy World if I ever draw one. So yeah, the Simba or the Cusco for 100% will definitely be in there. Rise of Titans, you didn't get enough value in my opinion. That's why I ended up cutting it at the end. You didn't get enough value from what you paid. You paid 3, you didn't get anything. You just took something from them, which I never felt was that great. And that's also might go back to Fire the Cannons and sort of in a sense removal cost cards. Maybe I don't want to get into that too much because yeah, I just felt like Rise of Titans a castle, Inkwise, it just didn't ever feel great, and I never progressed towards my win con that much from it. But yeah, with Simba, you get so much from it, or Kuzco as well, you get so much from it. You set up a singer, you have a 3/5 on board, which is strong. Kuzco has that unique resist ability. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it'll have. It's one of them things like the same with Porpschool and Fortisphere, where a million times that'll be useless, and then you'll have one game where that's like the key to you winning the game, and it'll be really fun. So yeah, I think the next thing for me to do is to swap that Simba out and try the Kuzco, because I don't think the ramp they get from putting the location into the Inkwell was that bad. But yeah, altogether it's just set 4 upgraded. I can't see any reason why it would be a bad deck. That's why I've just kept with it. I want to see how the meta shifts out. I think, yeah, Liela Green's going to be popular. I think a lot more lower to the ground deck's going to be popular. That might mean Tamatoa's not as bad, not as good. But the thing of Tamatoa is it can just be ink into so many matchups, and then when you get a red purple or a red blue, you can be like, I still play Tamatoas, by the way. So yeah, keeping it at 3 has felt fine for me. I've only had one game over the weekend where I was just hunting for another dime target and I couldn't find one because I'd inked a Toa, lost a Toa. I know I had one left and it was the last card in my deck. So I was just wheeling for no reason. When I could have been using the cards I had in my hand rather than searching for another dime target, but that was maybe a misplay. But yeah, these are the 3 decks I'm sort of most excited for. Actually playing at a sort of a probably serious level will be sticking with this or on PB Connect. If I got like winner case coming up at the end of the month that I'm going to try and do, or win a box or win something. But these are the decks that I think they're really worth checking out and trying, and that's sort of yeah, that's my picks for the set 5.